Good Saturday afternoon. Welcome on in to another episode of From Day One. We pick up where we left off yesterday in the A block. 3 minutes, 2 seconds are left on the clock. The lawyers are just about to discuss before allowing it to go back to the final 3 minutes of the defense's 15-minute clock. So, with Law Talk with Mike and his friends, you may discuss, counsel.
I was saying this earlier. Ron was here earlier, and I was saying this. I came at this clip with the worst of intentions. I thought, okay, this is salacious. I'm going to have fun. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, it's really interesting. Both attorneys present great cases. The justices are asking great questions, and it's an interesting discussion.
Yes,
it is. It's a very interesting discussion.
Well, and I think that judge does bring up a good point. Like, if we discipline a judge, but the people of that community say, actually, we're cool with this, what does that say?
Yeah.
And I do think that's an interesting issue.
What do you guys think? Do you think that morality should be legislated with respect to our, people who are holding public office? And is there a difference between judges and politicians? Is there a difference? Like, should this sort of thing be legislated, or should that be left exclusively to the ballot box?
Yeah, I mean, these are all good questions, and like, for instance, with politicians, they're nowhere close to the standard on average.
Yeah.
So this is definitely trying to raise it for a judge, but this is a wrinkle I didn't get, that he's a lay judge, so he's not.
Yeah.
He's not even a member of the bar.
So yeah, you can't really discipline a guy. Like, what are you gonna do? Take my law license away? Yeah.
Well, then this justice asks a damn good question, because they have me convinced. Let's stay out of his bedroom, whatever. Let the guy go. Then she says, okay, fine. What if he posts it on Instagram and gets 10,000 likes? Does that change your analysis? I mean, these are uncomfortable, rough hypotheticals.
Yeah.
They really are.
I'll tell you this much. Here's my starting. I have a couple of starting points here. Okay, I recognize that if I were to use my own personal morality standards for who should be a judge, there probably would be like a dozen people eligible.
Right.
So when I'm trying to approach this, I remove my personal perspectives on things, because I recognize that's not fair yardstick to hold society to a large, and that society has different values than I have, and I'm not the one in control of society. And I think each of us might have different values, in certain areas in society at large. So it's sort of important to step out of that and just look at, what's right or wrong in the abstract rather than from a personal perspective. And with that in mind, to me it makes sense to sort of try and draw a line based on a few factors here. If the judge is someone who's using his position in order to promote something that's considered salacious, like imagine a situation where he's like in his courtroom and doing involved in lewd or lascivious type of activity. Right. That's something that I think that certainly now you're basically using your position to embarrass the structure of the judiciary. So that I would think that they come down very hard on that, and should. Even if he refers to himself as like, the judge, here comes the judge in some sort of sexual type of way, I think he's now at that point, if he himself eschews that rather than the third party attaching it to him. But I think if he himself is embracing that sort of perspective, that is someone who's basically embarrassing the judiciary and certainly is asking for sanction. But let's just say he or she would be acting in an individual capacity and almost hiding the fact as far as their role in the judiciary and things of that nature. While I personally might frown on that activity, I think it's bad, I don't think our society at large probably frowns on it nearly to the same degree that I would. And I have to recognize that, all right, most people are looking at it might not even realize this person has anything to do with the judiciary.
Right.
So, and whether he sends it to 10 people and it stays with those 10 people, or whether he sends 10 people and it ends up going viral, I don't think there should be a difference, because his conduct, his activity as far as what he sent it out, I don't think the virality of the share should play a factor at all.
Yeah.
Because you can control what's going to go viral, and it's very hard to know or gauge. And just because I sent it to 3 people and some of them end up jacking it up and it does go viral, that shouldn't mean that I get more of a punishment than someone else does the exact same activity to me and it stays relatively quiet. I don't see why. I don't see how that's a fair. I don't see how that's a fair factor to even bring into the equation, personally.
No, that's interesting, and that is a big difference between now and say even 10 years ago.
Yes, for sure. But we have to carve rules going forward, not looking backwards.
But we're all hip to that because we're YouTubing here.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
I'm not talking about blackmail. I'm talking about the reflection on the judiciary. And you could say also, if I post a Twitter, a tweet that says "F the president,"
Sure.
in my own time, on my own phone, on my own private Twitter account, does that reflect well on the judiciary? Does that promote integrity and public confidence in the judiciary?
no, I agree that's a bad set of facts, and you don't want that. Likewise, if somebody hacked into your phone and took one of your private pictures off, which unfortunately can happen, and posted
That's not what
that would
happened
be.
here. What happened here
No, I
was
understand.
intentional putting out there
Sure.
for public dissemination.
No, it was as if I sent a naked picture to my wife. It
Well,
was
isn't it foreseeable? Well, no. Wouldn't it
It
be
is.
foreseeable that somebody would, don't we do
He's
that all
totally
the
sent
time
a
on
naked
social
picture to
media?
his wife.
Realize that if you post something,
That was
Exactly.
confession.
This was not on social media. This was
But if
only
you
one
text,
person.
the old adage of don't.
That sample really was a little too natural, wasn't it?
Yes, that was a self-report.
Yeah, he's like, suppose I sent a picture.
For sure.
Suppose I sent a naked picture to my wife and I was on a chin-up bar, and I was like, some were going down, some were going up. One time I had my leg up in the air. What are you telling us? What the hell?
And suppose my wife responded back with a bunch of volcanoes.
Don't write anything down that you wouldn't want on the front page of the Wichita Eagle.
Oh.
I agree. It is risky in the sense, but it's also likewise risky if you send a naked picture to your wife. The same risk attaches. I mean,
Right.
this very well could have. I mean, whether or not it is. I mean, it's essentially what you tell your kids. Don't take naked pictures of yourself. Don't do these things because don't write an email. No, I agree with that. It's not wise because there can be issues. That said, where does the court come in? If it wasn't posted anywhere, the only reason this became a matter of public knowledge is because it went to hearing, and here we are.
Somebody
Otherwise, it wouldn't have.
a member of the public complained about it.
Yeah, to Mr. Thompson, who put the pictures in the record. Yeah, otherwise nobody would have heard about it.
Well, wait a minute, counsel. That's not the finding of the panel. At the top of page 12 of the final hearing report, it says, the respondent's decision to take a picture of his penis and post that picture on a social media website crossed that bright line and violated the judicial canons requiring a judge to act with integrity. And earlier in the decision, the panel specifically rejected your argument that this was not public. And so this case has got to boil down, based on the findings, to being the posting of these private pictures on social media that was more widely available than just you're sending a picture to your wife. And that's why I think so much of this discussion is off base.
I'd push back on that, Justice. I don't think those aren't the facts. I mean, literally,
That's right. Push
it is
back
a
hard.
website, but the only people that had access to this was the respondent and his wife. I mean, so it literally, you have to grant access. These are the facts in the record. The panel characterized it, and I see the language you're talking about it, and they're calling it a social. The only people, if you go to the record and the facts, the only people that have access to this, the respondent and his wife. Nobody else can have access to this.
And those to whom they gave consent to have it released to you, is that correct?
The respondent and the wife, yes. The respondent and his wife, or not the respondent, I'm sorry. The complainant and his wife were given access by the respondent. So Judge Clark gave authority to the complainant's wife and the complainant to access the photograph. So this is two couples that had access.
I appreciate
And
the
this
fact
is so at
So
the
you got
top
knocked
of
out by a buddy.
page
Jeez.
I appreciate the fact
11.
Justice Wall
The
seems to be
panel
quietly assessing
specifically
the
says the respondent cannot hide behind a claim that these were not public because he was the only person who could give permission. The respondent opened the door by releasing the photos to even one person on social media. Those photos could be generally disseminated to social media world and even finding their way to the commission. So, I think really both sides keep wanting to keep talking about moral compasses and moral codes. This case has got to boil down to the fact of using social media for this function.
Those aren't the facts, Justice. I mean, it's the same.
That's what we're talking about, though, right there. All this is funny, and I'm having a nice immature laugh about it. But damn, if they aren't on point and like hitting all the issues, it's impressive. It really is, and it's the Supreme Court via Zoom, but still, it's cool.
Yeah.
See, I read the language that they're using in there to mean. I mean, they didn't change the facts. Those are the facts. What I read that paragraph is saying is the same as I'm creating the ability to, if I send a naked picture of my wife and she gets mad at me and files for divorce, and that's the revenge porn legislation that's out there, she could then post it on Twitter. You're creating this
Mr.
same
Joseph,
scenario.
Justice Biles
That's actually a good
drew our
point.
attention to the exact language in the from the panel that I have at least conceptual concern with. The language about you respondent can't hide behind the notion that this wasn't public. I'm wondering if that's even right as a matter of law, because that standard suggests that there's no such thing as privacy at all in any two-way communication. So every email I've ever sent, every text message I've ever sent is now public. I don't know how we escape that conclusion from the panel's conclusion, and that would be very troubling to me.
I think you can use the same language, and this is what I said to the panel. Again, they didn't agree with me, so I acknowledge that. You can use the same language and same description. If I send a naked picture of myself to my wife by text, and she later posts it.
Well, it might help to take naked pictures out of the... what if I just say, I'll meet you for lunch at 12 p.m. at the Classic Bean or wherever, downtown Topeka, and I send that to whomever in a private text or email. According to the panel's findings, that email is public, right? Would you agree or disagree?
No, I agree. No, I agree. Anything you send, there's a potential that it can be, I'm essentially saying the potential that it is later disseminated exists. You put it in writing, you send it to someone, therefore it could be disseminated in a public forum later. That everything's that way, whether or not it's a naked picture or I'll meet you for lunch. It is a communication, while private between two people. It could be later revealed to the public at large. You cannot hide behind that, if you will, is the conclusion of the panel.
Yep.
Mike, I got bust out of here, but
Mr.
Thank you for coming by.
it's my pleasure.
Thank you, Chief.
This is a really interesting conversation. I hate that I have to duck out, but
See
you, Joe.
Not a problem.
yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to catching you really soon.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Mr. Joseph, I assume from your argument.
History.
What's that?
What's that?
Hope Joe's not going to purchase history.
Oh.
That your recommendation of the court would be to impose no discipline?
Yes, yes, it would be.
To make that clear. Are there other questions? Mr. Thompson, you reserve 5 minutes.
Thank you. There's been a discussion about
I know appeal to co-counsel
bad
Pat
precedent
Robertson.
or precedent that would cause a problem in the future.
This guy is, and by the way, I think both attorneys and all the justices look great here. I think it's a really intelligent discussion.
Yes.
Good advocacy all around. But this guy is straight from central casting for the moral position, you know?
Yes.
I'd be like, yeah, I'll pick him. Yep.
Yeah, no, and I would agree 100% with that. The justices, I mean, I didn't think they'd be any different here, but these two attorneys are, yeah, I mean, I'd say his argument, though, is the closest to straying into, like, you know, arguing for feels versus the facts here. But yeah, I still come down to the idea of like, how do you discipline somebody you really don't have authority over?
Yep.
Really, at the end of the day, because
And they address that issue, and they address the whole issue of, well, the real problems here is that social media, and it can be reshared is essentially the issue.
Yeah.
And they come to the issue of privacy versus that, but there are really good arguments about blackmail and community. You know, it's a touchy issue. The end.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing his argument about the, yes, you don't have any privacy anymore, because I think that's what he's going to have to argue.
Yeah, that's what he's about to say.
Judges, yeah. Okay.
If you rule that this behavior does not require discipline, that's bad precedent. That will cause problems in the future. Justice Stegall, I would respond to your suggestion, your hypothetical suggestion, that this is very different. The whole purpose of this particular website is to send your photos, these nude photos, out to other people who you don't really know. So this is not the same as sending a message to your wife saying, let's have lunch at the Classic Bean. This is completely different.
Do we have to? And I appreciate that difference, and that's a point worth exploring, because I think where we draw the line between public and private is, at least from my perspective, one of the most important things about this particular case, because it has such wide-ranging implications for society and certainly for members of the judiciary. And so my question is,
okay, that's funny, Philip.
You're essentially suggesting that there should be some...
Since people can't see it, Philip sent a message, once you go judge, you don't come back.
kind of a foreseeability element to this. Like, if I make a private...
All right, Mike, knock it off. Judge Middleton would say, stop swinging. Yeah, over 3 he probably would. Alrighty, getting back to the rebuttal. 3 minutes, 29 seconds left on that prosecutor's clock.
Private communication, you have to sort of assess the risk level of exposure. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Well, I still would refer to, I think one of the other courts talked about the fact that all of these other issues aside, when a judge is grooming his private organs for purposes of taking a photograph and then takes those photographs and tries to claim that they just accidentally slipped out of his phone when he was talking to a woman, that there's just no justification for that as being private. That goes beyond private. The whole point of taking those pictures is not for him to look at himself. He took those pictures to give to other people. And the same would be true.
But it seemed as though the panel drew such a wide net to what is public by any time anything is shared at all. And you won't get any argument from me about the disturbing nature of the conduct here. But I'm having a hard time seeing how we draw the public-private distinction based on the content of the communication. It seems to me the content of the communication cannot play a role in deciding whether it's private.
Well, I would say the content can, because in this particular case, there are gross, vivid descriptions about having sex in chambers. Now, that is, related to the judiciary directly and absolutely. That's not a private matter. So the content does relate to whether it's public or private. And I would encourage you, before this opinion gets written, to go back and read those text messages about sex in the chambers and ask yourself, is this a private matter? This is with a lay person in which...
Well, I'm sure it's a private matter. He's just saying those texts are filthy. Take another look.
You know, this is where he's sorry. I was listening to a lot of the walk away.
Right.
he was doing so good, but now, once it turns into this, you have no privacy, and they are, he hasn't brought God into this yet, but he's like, the authority of the chambers, and it's, and he dares sully the, rich common law history we have.
I mean, this is tough. This is like a good thing for people to see. Yes, I got it because it was fallacious. Yes, because he's and it's funny. Okay, fine. But it really raises very interesting questions about what are the contours of this stuff. Because on one hand, this is embarrassing to the judiciary. There's no two ways about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure these justices would have been like, look, come on, Marty. Like, why did you have to bring this to us? Like, why did you have to do this?
But on the other hand, who wants somebody peeping on everybody's stuff? I mean, so it's this is a good fight that should take place, and I don't have a clean answer to it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Tells her where from another state, which he tells her where his chambers are, and then they talk vividly about what would happen if they were together in chambers. So,
Todd, that's how it's done, buddy. Yeah,
Well, if you're in state A and I'm in state B, you really can't affect me.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I like to talk vividly about it. You don't do dirty talk vaguely, Todd. Let me just explain this to you.
I also heard a photograph as a phrase. There was not a photograph. There were a multitude of photographs, multiple photographs. So this wasn't the case of sending a photograph out. There were multiple photographs of both men and women sent back and forth by this judge to and from this judge.
Well, that's how it's done.
Yeah, they were doing things I didn't know was legal. He's like, I've asked my wife about this. She says it's not possible. So I'm really confused.
He keeps going with the multiple thing. It's like this isn't. It's sort of a binary scenario. Either you can do this and do it a lot, or you can't do it at all. That's how it is.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my point too. At the end of the day,
right.
Either it's good if I do it, or it's not good. There is no
right.
Yeah, I did it once compared to I did it multiple times.
I would suggest this: the panel has recommended public censure. That's the absolute minimum that is required here. I would also note that the respondent is in his early 50s. He has the ability to run for this position again, which would be unfathomable to me. I understand the Roney situation, but in this particular instance, I'm not sure just admonishment is appropriate. I would suggest that there be some additional criteria applied that would preclude him from ever being a judge again unless he has had a great deal of education about the role and about the integrity of the judiciary. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, your last remarks kind of, I think, tell me the answer to my question. But again, I'm focused at the top of page 12 of the final hearing report that talks about posting, and it just says a picture, but I don't care about that, but posting the social media website. If you take the social media website out of this case, do you still have an argument for public censure of this judge?
Again, great question. Great question.
Well, I would argue this is a social media website. It's not an unlimited one, but it is a social media website.
Take it out.
That's an implicit no,
of the
but okay.
picture.
Okay, so if it's...
That didn't happen.
I've made that argument
he
myself.
still distributed photographs to members of the public of himself, of his genitals, to people he didn't really know. Initially, he posted these pictures and gave this couple the right to access them after meeting them one time.
That's a moral judgment.
Meeting them one time. Like, how well do you have to know them before you start sending pictures of your junk?
Well, this is where, like, people keep pointing out, it's like, Todd, you should definitely not, hopefully nobody's told Todd about Tinder. It's like, it's just unsolicited. You send out pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, it's still inappropriate behavior. Just taking pictures of your genitals and distributing them in any way to the public, in my opinion, does nothing to enhance the integrity of the judiciary.
I don't know. Have you seen the pictures?
Oh, jeez,
Are
Mike.
there other questions?
I did just have a quick question that I remember as you were closing. But what is your position on the jurisdiction now that the judge has voluntarily retired?
I think the jurisdiction question was answered in Henderson 2 very clearly by this court. If I can grab that real quickly, I'll quote you guys in holding that the judge should not be able to escape by simply retiring. The respondent, this is
Yet another interesting issue. Do we have jurisdiction to do anything over the guy now that he's retired and he's not an attorney? They're hitting them all.
your quote in Henderson 2. The respondent suggests this court lost jurisdiction over him as a result of his resignation from his judicial office. This argument is inconsistent with prior decisions of this court and with the policies that govern the discipline of judges. So, and then it goes on, you go on to cite other cases.
We also found
you clearly have jurisdiction.
We also found that because Judge Henderson was no longer serving as a judge, we lost the capacity to sanction him.
Well, no, you lost the capacity to remove him from office.
Well, to suspend or to sanction him, and we didn't do anything else.
Yeah, there was no sanction imposed.
Correct.
Mr. Thompson,
get
your
corrected
proposed
like that, bro.
discipline raises a question
Get fucking
of, in my mind, of what authority there is that a Supreme
I will, but it'll be somebody else.
Court has the ability to bar anyone from future office.
I think it does raise that question.
Well, hold on,
I don't
Mike, let me
believe that
just show
question
something
has
real
been answered, although the
Mike,
code...
hold on.
Mike,
Pause real quick.
stop the tape.
Okay, that guy who asked about the nudes. Hey, tonight 9:30, I do a stream. Every $500 super chat, I'll send nudes for you.
Oh my God, no.
Are you seriously doing a live stream tonight?
Yeah, we'll do a guest host with guest host COVID-19. But yes.
Oh, fantastic! Go over to Potentially Criminal and check it out, everybody, and hit like and subscribe while you're over there.
Yeah.
Specifically
Yeah, well,
states that you may impose any other remedy that justice requires.
Are there other questions? All right. Thank you for your arguments today. The court will take this matter under advisement. The court is in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, there you have it. There's the great Kansas Supreme Court swinging judge debacle.
Did they put that up on their own, Kansas Supreme Court, or no?
That was sent to me.
Oh,
And I will say, I went the extra mile for my viewers because I am nothing but hardworking.
Yeah.
And I spent 12 seconds Googling this. And you know what the Supreme Court did? Because right in that clip, they take it under advisement. But you know what they did?
They sealed it.
They took no further action.
Oh.
In other words, they gave this guy nothing else.
I think that's fair.
They let it walk. So he lost at a prior level. They didn't file exceptions, which I'm guessing they're saying they didn't appeal that decision. So there's a decision against him, but no consequence for sanctions.
It sounds like
I don't
it
know.
just stayed.
Yeah.
Which
So that's the result. I googled it. I have it here. If I was good at well, let me see here. Let me see.
You're not good, Mike.
Let me see if I can do this.
Mike, we don't need to know about your clothing choices.
Is that on?
you have the newspaper.
Okay. So here's where we are. Kansas Supreme Court takes no action against former Judge Marty Clark.
And I get, and I was saying this earlier, I know in some states you can be a magistrate or like a judge without a law degree. But the idea you could run for the office without the degree,
That's insane.
yeah, and I'm not just trying to say we're, gatekeeping, but like you got to have some sort of legal knowledge if you're going to be in charge of something.
Yes. If you're going to be elected.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
if you
I think
okay, fine.
you're a magistrate.
Yeah, we're going to appoint a magistrate to handle traffic matters and stop signs and that kind of thing, and then you can kind of pick them and like maybe they're trained for some reason or another. But yeah, they shouldn't be able to get elected to that. I agree with you.
But that's very common in a lot of counties or a lot of states actually.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's just get back to the old days. When there weren't a lot of attorneys. It's like, oh well, Farmer Bob's trustworthy. Let's let him be the magistrate.
Stop it, Ned. No, there is no shortage of attorneys. Yes, most attorneys don't want to handle petty traffic. It might be money because they can pay these guys nothing.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, I mean, like in Ohio, if you become a magistrate, and I mean that's good eating. I mean, I bet it's like that in Illinois as well.
I'm in the city, so it's not like I know.
Well.
I mean, I get out in the hinterland once in a while, but not enough. And when I do, so let's say I'm traveling to Effingham, which is a farm town out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, fine. So, but why am I there? I'm there because I've got a really good case, and that's why I'm willing to travel there. So it's not being handled by a magistrate.
Yeah.
I'm not going out. I'm not going to Effingham to deal with somebody blowing a stop sign. Hell, I'm not even walking across the street to the Daily Center to do that. So,
oh, geez,
that's the way it is. Well, thank you for coming out. That was kind of fun. That was a weird one. Somebody just emailed that to me today, and like I said, I thought this was going to be like funny. I thought it was kind of funny. It turned out very funny. Like Joe and you were cracking me up. Even Ron earlier, but like I thought, oh, this is just gonna be super funny, and then I started watching it. And I'm like, no, this is super interesting. All the good arguments were presented.
Yeah, there's always, I mean, and I think this is just the proof you can have a hilarious situation, but also have that, that intellectual discussion about it and the underpinnings of it. And I do, and I think the court. And I will give the court credit because those are all boomers. They understand we are at a crossroads where, if this was 1992, I'd understand, sanction this guy, do whatever, they stone him or whatever they do in Kansas. In Ohio, they probably would have done the same thing. But I think they're understanding, like, look, the world is vastly different even in the past 5 years. Maybe we shouldn't be involved.
I guess that's where I was impressed. They're all sharp. All of them involved. All the attorneys, all the justices were bright people, and how on top of all of the issues they were. And I'm judging that based on their questions.
Yeah.
They were asking all the questions that I had.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, this is kind of, I don't know, reassuring or something.
Yeah, they pushed back in all the places I was hoping they'd push back.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, go get yourself ready for your stream. What time is that at?
9:30. Oh, by the way, I know Team Skeptic. If you're still out there, I've been trying to get in touch with you through our friend Rennie. So don't be afraid to give me a shout. Then sounds like we're missing each other.
Do you have?
You heard of Father Skeptic?
I have his email from if you go to his about page, but other than that, no, I don't have his I don't have his DMs. I can't.
Right.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for potentially criminal Mr. Sean. Was the last guy who stayed on with him for conversation. While we do this real quick, let's see if we have another court case. Where's Mr. Squishy? There he is. Usually have some good in the can happy court cases. And actually, appears that he doesn't. Damn it. Well, I guess not. Well, we're at 35 minutes. It's going to be good enough. We can. Here, of course, we will have our auditors, Substance, and Karen's in the evening. Come on back for part B. And of course, since we did complete with Richard Hoagland in the overnight, we have a brand new Art Bell episode coming up in the overnight. I'm actually trying to source material if I can. We may actually go really back in time to an original coast to coast recording of Art Bell. But until then, of course, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. Help us get those goals of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers, of course. So Boxy over at Nexter sends us those nice, beautiful red packages so we can send them all to you lovely folks. And of course, that Google puts us on the algorithms on that side. Coinbase, Ibotta, Gain.gg, you know the drills on all three of those lovely items. So help us out with those. And help yourself to some freebies when you do as well. Until next time, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and as always, release the Krakens as we march along this afternoon and every afternoon here from day one. We'll be back tonight with our auditors, Substance, and Karen's. But until then, enjoy this last fight in an adventure, and have a great afternoon. As always, like, share, and subscribe, please. See you tonight.